Sit down. It's good to see you all. And thank you, Lori, for the great introduction. Thank you. All right. So it is great to be here with all of you today, including Captain America, right? Love it. Love it. It's good to be here today. I thought what we do is I'll just tell you a little bit about myself, tell you a little bit about why I'm in this race. Come on in. Tell you about why I'm in this race, and we'll do some questions. And then for anybody who wants to, we'll do selfies. So you may notice I'm a little hoarse. All I can say is I think I picked up a little bit of a cold. One hug too many in the selfie line. So nevertheless, I persist. So, I was born and raised in Oklahoma. Total silence. It's okay, there aren't that many Okies. But I was born and raised out in Oklahoma. I do have an Okie back here. Good, good, all right. Born and raised in Oklahoma. I am what used to be called a late in life baby. My mother always just referred to me as the surprise. I have 3 older brothers who to this day are referred to collectively as the boys to distinguish them from the surprise. All 3 of my brothers went off and joined the military. My oldest brother, Don Reed, was career military. He spent about 5.5 years off and on in combat in Vietnam. We were very lucky to get him back home. My second brother, John, was stationed overseas for a little over a year. My third brother, David, trained as a combat medic. Now, that has given rise to a rule in our family of long standing: never choke in front of David. Yeah, he carries a sharpened knife. He is convinced he could perform an emergency tracheotomy. Makes for some exciting moments at Thanksgiving. Anybody goes, and we all just back out of the room. I love my brothers. I'm close to my brothers. They've all moved back to Oklahoma now. They live close to each other. When we were growing up, our daddy had a lot of different jobs. He sold paint. He sold carpet, he sold fencing, he sold housewares. And then when I was in middle school, by that point the boys were all gone, and it was just my mother, my daddy, and me. And my daddy had a heart attack. He pulled through, but he couldn't work for a long, long time. So I still, to this day, remember when we lost the family station wagon. I remember how my mother used to tuck me in at night, and she'd kiss me on the forehead, pull my blankets up and pat them, and then she'd always give me this big smile and turn to walk out of the room, and I always knew what was coming. She'd walk out of the room, close the door behind her, and start to cry. She never wanted to cry in front of me. This is the time in my life when I learned words like mortgage and foreclosure. And then one day I walked into my folks' bedroom, and laid out on the bed was the dress. Now, some of you in here will know the dress. It's the one that only comes out for weddings, funerals, and graduations. And there's my mother pacing. She's in her slip and her stocking feet, and she has her head down, and she's saying, "We will not lose this house. We will not lose this house. We will not lose this house." She was 50 years old. She had never worked outside the home, and she was terrified. Finally, she looked up, and she saw me standing in the doorway. I'm just a kid. And she didn't say anything. She looks at me, and she looks at that dress, and she looks back at me, and she wiped her face, walked over, picked up the dress, pulled it on, put on her high heels, and walked to the Sears, where she got a full-time minimum wage job answering phones. That minimum wage job saved our house, and more importantly, it saved our family. And I have always thought of this as the lesson my mother taught me. No matter how scared you are, no matter how hard it looks, when it comes down to it, you reach down deep, you find what you have to find, you pull it up, and you take care of the people you love. Now, it was years later when I came to understand that wasn't just what my mother taught me. That's what millions of people do around this country every day. No matter how hard it looks, no matter how scared they are, they reach down deep, they find what they have to find, they pull it up, and they take care of themselves and the people they love. We are Americans, that's what we do. But it was only years after that I came to understand that same story, the story of my mother, is also a story about government. Because when I was a girl, a full-time minimum wage job in America would support a family of 3. It would pay a mortgage, it would cover the utilities, and it would put food on the table. Today, a full-time minimum wage job in America will not keep a mama and a baby out of poverty. That is wrong, and that is why I am in this fight. Yep, there it is. And understand this, that difference is no accident. It didn't happen because of gravity. That difference is about who government works for. Because when I was a girl, the question asked in Washington about where to set the minimum wage was, what does it take a family of 3 to survive? What does it take a family of 3 to get a toehold in America's middle class? What does it take a family of 3 to have something solid they can build a real future on? Today, the question asked in Washington about setting the minimum wage is, where do we set the minimum wage to maximize the profits of giant multinational corporations? Well, I don't want a government that works for giant multinational corporations. I want one that works for our families. Yep. Yeah. So like I said, the boys all went off and joined the military. It was a path to America's middle class. Me, I've had a different dream. I knew what I wanted to be in 2nd grade. And you laugh. You didn't decide till what, like 4th grade? 5th, I can always tell who's in the back row, right? 5th grade. Me, I have known what I wanted to be since 2nd grade, and I have never varied from it. I wanted to be a public school teacher. Can we hear it for America's public school teachers? I love it. Oh, I wanted to do this. And I want you to know, I invested early. I used to line my dollies up and teach school. I had a reputation for being tough but fair. Oh, it's what I wanted though. Talked about it all the time. This is what I was gonna do. By the time I graduated from high school, my family didn't have the money for a college application, much less to send me off to 4 years at university. So like a lot of Americans, I do not have a straight line story. I have a story that has twists and turns and pieces to it. So here's how my story goes. I was a high school debater, and I got a scholarship to college. Yay! And then, at 19, I fell in love, got married, and dropped out of school. Yay! Yay! Now look, it's something I chose. Nobody made me do this, and it's going to be a good life. Going to be. But I thought I'd given up on the dream, that I'd never be able to teach school. And then we're living down in Houston, Texas, and then I found it. 45 minutes away from where we lived, there was a commuter college that cost $50 a semester. And for a price I could pay for on a part-time waitressing job, I finished my 4-year diploma. I became a special education teacher. I have lived my dream job. I loved it. Now, do we have any public school teachers in here? Oh, wow, we got a bunch. Good, good, good. Okay, so I'm going to need you to back me up on this. Okay, back me up on this. It is not a job, it is a calling. I love this work. I had 4 to 6-year-olds, little ones, and I remember the things we worked on. I remember our successes. I remember our not so successes. I love those kids. And I probably would still be doing this work today, but my story has some more twists and turns. And here's the next one. By the end of the first year, I was visibly pregnant. And the principal did what principals did in those days, wished me luck and hired someone else for the job. Okay, so that's what it was like. Here I am, I'm at home, I've got a baby, I can't get a job. What am I going to do? Because I'm the kind that's got to do something. I know, I'll go to law school. Yay! So, baby on hip, found a public law school. By this time we're living in New Jersey. Public law school, $450 a semester. Baby on hip, did 3 years of law school, graduated visibly pregnant. You will discover a pattern to these stories. And graduated, took the bar, and practiced law for 45 minutes. And then went back to my first love, which was teaching. I traded little ones for big ones, and I have spent most of my grown-up life teaching in law school. Made other changes in my life about this time. Husband number 1. Hint, it is never good when you have to number your husbands. Husband number 1 and I parted ways, and that's when I found Bruce, and I've had him ever since. So, what a sweetie. So, here I am, I'm teaching in law school, and I don't know if this is everybody, but growing up in a family that was kind of hanging on to our place in the middle class by our fingernails, I'll tell you what I wanted to learn about and teach about: money. If it was about money, I was in there. So I taught contract law and commercial law, secured transactions, payment systems, corporate finance, partnership finance, law and economics, debtor-creditor law, bankruptcy law. If it was about money, count on me, I'll come and work on it. But there was always one central issue that I worked on, and that is what's happening to America's working families. Why is America's middle class being hollowed out? Why is it that people who work every bit as hard as my mother worked 2 generations ago, today find the path so much rockier and so much steeper. And for people of color, even rockier and even steeper. And the answer is just like the answer over minimum wage. It's who government works for. Think of it this way. We have a government in Washington that works great for giant oil companies. It just doesn't work for the rest of us who see climate change bearing down upon us. Yep. It works great for people who actually want to make money over private prisons and private detention centers down at the border. It just doesn't work for the people whose lives are destroyed by those places. Yep. It works great for giant drug companies, right? Just not for the people who want to get a prescription filled. And here's the thing. When you see a government that works great for those with money and doesn't work so great for everyone else, that is corruption, pure and simple, and we need to call it out for what it is. Corruption. Yep. Corruption. And the thing is, it's the money in Washington that's everywhere and touches everything. Yeah, it's about campaign contributions, but it's about more. It's about the armies of lobbyists and lawyers, the bought and paid for think tanks, the bought and paid for experts. Think of it this way. Whatever issue is the one that gets you up in the morning, whatever is the issue that keeps you up late at night, whether it's climate or healthcare or gun violence, whatever issue it is, I guarantee if there's a decision to be made in Washington, it's been influenced by money. It's been reshaped by money. It's been nudged by money. Money, money, money. In fact, let me tell you a quick story about this. Back in the early 1990s, we knew what was happening on climate change. We didn't have quite all the numbers on how fast it was coming, but we had the scientists were clear on this. Pumping this much carbon into the air is not good and not sustainable. And here's the thing. In Washington, Democrats and Republicans were working together. They were asking questions like, do we need to expand the power of the EPA? Do we need to put more money into cleanup? Do we need other regulations in place? And then along come the Koch brothers. I see you've heard of the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers and the petroleum industry and some of the big polluters, and they get together and in effect say, wow, you know, if Congress is serious about this climate thing, if they're going to change the regulations, that's going to bite into our profits. That's going to cost us money. So they've got an investment decision to make. They could decide, handwriting is on the wall, we're getting out of petroleum-based, they don't do that. They could decide, you know, we're going to put all of our R&D money into how you clean up the air. They don't do that. They make an investment. They invest in politicians in Washington. They invest in making sure that nothing happens. And here's one of the ways they do it. They invest in bought and paid for experts. You know these guys, the climate deniers, right? Think about it. You know, these are the guys who stand up and say, hi, I am a doctor. As a doctor, let me tell you, climate has been here for a long time. It's always had a lot of climate. Salad was good in the old days. The dinosaurs loved it. Whatever they say, right? Ask yourself, why? would a handful of folks spend so much money to lift up the climate deniers, this kind of fringe? Why would they do that? You know, the Koch brothers don't do this because they don't understand the science. No, they did it because those bought and paid for experts could build something. They built an umbrella that politicians could hide under and keep taking money from the Koch brothers, from the oil industry, from the big polluters. And if voters ask, say, gee, I don't know, it's all controversial, I'm not a scientist. You want to understand the climate crisis we face today? It is 25 years of corruption in Washington that got us here. So the money is everywhere. It's felt everywhere. And if we want to fix this problem, it's not going to be enough to say, we'll mop up a little of it over here, we'll get a statute over there, here's my one idea over here. No, it's going to take big structural change. You ready for some? Yep. Yes, big structural change, and I'll tell you what, the place I want to start is let's go up against the corruption head on. We just got to fight it. I'm ready. Enough of our playing defense against this money. It's time to go on offense. We can do this. And I got a plan for that. So here it is. Here's the good news. I have the biggest anti-corruption plan since Watergate. That's the good news. Here's the bad news. We need the biggest anti-corruption plan since Watergate. Okay, so it's a big plan. It's got a lot of moving parts to it. So let me just give you a sample, just a few of the things out of the plan. Gives you an idea of how it works. First part, end lobbying as we know it. Block the revolving door between Wall Street and Washington. Here's one you may never have thought about, but it's a really good one. And that is, make the United States Supreme Court follow basic rules of ethics. They don't do that. Okay, I could do these all day long. Let me just do one more, just one more. And that you really want to hose out some corruption in Washington. Here's one. Make everyone who wants to run for federal office put their tax returns online. Yes. Yep. Okay, so that's part one. And that is attack the corruption head on. Just come after it. Because here's the thing. You start to disrupt the influence of money, the influence of the giant corporations, the influence of the billionaires. Now you got a chance to start making real change. And here's where I want to go. I want some structural change in this economy. We got a real problem in America right now, and that is these giant corporations. You know the ones, they've swallowed up the little businesses, they've swallowed up the medium-sized businesses. Shoot, they've swallowed up what used to be big businesses. And the problem is the power it gives them. Power over their employees, power over their customers, power over the communities where they're located, and power in Washington. It is time for a president who has the courage to enforce our antitrust laws and break some of these guys up. Yep. Big ag, big tech, we're coming. So, That's part one, and it'll help a lot. But the rest of it, we need more balance in the system. Corporations have got so much power. We need more power in the hands of workers. That means make it easier to join a union and give unions more power when they negotiate. Unions built America's middle class. Unions will rebuild America's middle class. So that's a second way you can get some structural change in this economy. Let me tell you a third way. It is time for a wealth tax in America. Yes. Yep. And yeah, I got a plan for that. So let me explain the plan. This is a tax on the top 1/10 of 1%. So here's how it works. Your first $50 million is free and clear. Yeah, exactly. Woman over here says, I can deal with this woman. She is not unreasonable. Your first $50 million is free and clear. But your 50 millionth and first dollar, you got to pitch in 2 cents. And 2 cents on every dollar of accumulated wealth after that. You hit $1 billion, it's a few more pennies you got to pitch in. And just so everybody thinks about how this works, anybody in here own a home or grew up in a family that owned a home? Yeah, you all have been paying a wealth tax. It's just called a property tax, right? And all I'm saying that's different is for the top 1/10 of 1%, their property tax isn't just the real estate, it's also the stock portfolio, the diamonds, the Rembrandt, and the yacht. That's it. Now, I know you're going to be shocked to hear this, but there are some billionaires who have taken exception to my wealth tax. Yeah, I know. And, you know, some have even gone on television and cried about it. So sad. But saying, you know, I worked hard for this, you know, to which I also want to say, you mean, unlike anybody else. But they say, I worked hard. And look, I get it. I'm not mad. You're a billionaire. Good for you. You had a great idea, you followed it through, you worked hard, whatever it is, you got lucky, great. Good for you. Good for you. But understand this. You built a great fortune here in America. You did it at least in part using workers all of us help pay to educate. Yeah. You did it. At least in part, getting your goods to market on roads and bridges, all of us help pay to build. You did it, at least in part. Protected by police and firefighters, all of us help pay the salaries for. And here's the thing, we are glad to do it. We are Americans. We want to make these investments in opportunity. All we're saying is when you make it big, I mean really big, I mean top 1/10 of 1% big, pitch in 2 cents so everybody else gets a chance to make it in this country. Yeah, that's it. Because here comes the fun part. What could we do with 2 cents? And the answer, I'll tell you where I start. We can do universal child care for every baby in this country age 0 to 5. Yeah. Universal pre-K for every 3-year-old and 4-year-old in America. And we can stop exploiting the women, largely black and brown women who do this work. We can raise the wages of every child care worker and preschool teacher in America. Yep. 2 cents. A 2-cent tax on the top 1/10 of 1% pays for all of that for our babies, plus an historic $800 billion investment from the federal level into our public schools. Think about that. $0.02. Quadruple the funding of Title I schools that teach low-income children. A personal favorite for a special ed teacher, for the first time in history, fully fund IDEA so children with disabilities get a chance to get the education they deserve. Yep. You can do all of that, and then the math works out that we can put about $1 million into every single one of our public schools for them to spend in the ways that will help them be the excellent schools they want to be. Think about that. 2 cents. So that same 2 cents got us all of that for our babies, all of that for K-12, and I'm not through yet. That same 2 cents will also permit us to provide tuition-free technical school, 2-year college, and 4-year college for everyone who wants an education. Yep. 2 cents. It's amazing. Plus, we can help level the playing field and put $50 billion into our historically black colleges and universities. Yep. All of that and just one more. We can cancel student loan debt for 43 million Americans. Yep. 2 cents. 2 cents. I want you to think about that, because this really is, whether the 2 cents stays with the billionaires or whether the 2 cents comes down to invest in an entire generation. One more I want to mention when we're talking about the structure in the economy. Understand this. We talk about budgets, and most people think budgets are numbers. They're not. They're statements of our values. So I want to tell you one more value that I think we need to protect. And that is, after a lifetime of hard work, people are entitled to retire with some dignity. And that means protecting and expanding Social Security in this country. And here's my plan for that. By asking the top 2% to pay a little more, we can both extend the life of Social Security for decades to come and increase every Social Security check and disability check by $200 a month. That'd make a big difference for millions of people. Okay, so that's part 2, some structural change in our economy. Part 3, protect our democracy. That's what we gotta do. We need a constitutional amendment in this country to protect the right of every American citizen to vote and to get that vote counted. It's time to pass a federal law to roll back every racist voter suppression law in America. Yep. Yep. It's time. Good. And while we're at it, how about a federal law to ban all political gerrymandering? It's time. You bet. Yep. And just one more. Overturn Citizens United. Democracy is not for sale. Yes. Yes. Yep. So there it is. I just want three things. Attack the corruption head on, make some structural change in this economy, and protect our democracy. Because to me, that's what this is all about. Those three things are related to each other in this way. They address the fundamental question about the kind of America we're going to be and who's going to have opportunity in this country. Are we going to be an America where opportunity is just reserved for those born into privilege, or an America where every single child in this country has the opportunity for a first-rate education? We can do that. Opportunity. You know, remember, I was a special ed teacher. Opportunity means a lot of different things to different people. Opportunity to live independently. Opportunity to be able to get a good job, to be able to start your own business. Opportunity to love who you love and build the family you want to build. Not in a million years did I think that I would end up on a stage like this. But here's the thing. My daddy, he ended up as a janitor. But his baby daughter got the opportunity. The opportunity to become a public school teacher. The opportunity to become a college professor. The opportunity to become a United States Senator, and the opportunity to become a candidate for President of the United States of America. Dream big, fight hard, let's win. Senator Kavanaugh, come on up.
Thank you, Senator.
State Senator Kevin Kavanaugh.
Thank you. You know, my biggest fear tonight was tripping on one of those steps and dumping this whole basket.
There you go.
So far, so good. Everyone had the option to grab a ticket if they wanted to ask a question of the senator tonight. So what we did, we put all the tickets in a basket. I'm going to randomly pick three until we have three people to ask questions. If we pick your number, please, there's volunteers around the auditorium with microphones to come over, so just wave your hand.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. All the tickets start with 846. The first one is 5860. 5860.
Do we have a winner? All right, we got a 5860. Woo!
And we're going to pick all three right now, just so we can move things along the allotted time. The next one is 5811.
5811. Where? Oh, great.
Okay, great.
Come on down.
Here we go.
Uh-huh.
And one more.
Bingo. That's what it feels like. Uh-huh. We'll be offering a waffle iron for...
And 5837. 5837.
Here we go. Is that right? All right. Okay, thank you, Senator.
That's it.
Thank you. We got 3 out of 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's fabulous. Hi.
Hi, Senator Warren, thank you so much for being here.
Glad to do it. Tell me your name.
My name's Forrest.
Hi, Forrest.
Hi. My question's about housing. New Hampshire has a less than 1% vacancy rate.
Yeah.
We have a homelessness crisis here.
Yeah.
What's your plan for affordable housing here in New Hampshire and the country?
Oh, so I got a plan for that. I'm ready for you, Forrest. So first, can we just talk about the dimensions of the problem? And you've identified it. Why is there such a low vacancy rate in New Hampshire? And the answer is supply, right? It's just very straightforward. Over the last half century, two things have happened. The first is that private developers who used to build small, affordable housing. I grew up in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath garage converted to hold my 3 brothers. That was our house. They're not building those houses anymore. I'm not mad at them, but they're off building McMansions because that's where the profits are. So if you're in the McMansion market, there's actually plenty of supply for you. The other is the federal government has pulled out and has not made the kind of investment in public housing and low-income housing. So my plan is to make a much bigger investment in housing. I have a plan to build about 3.2 million new housing units in America. That'll be a big start right here in New Hampshire. And the idea behind it is to put the money in so we build the units, but understand this, it's up and down the line. It's for middle-class families, it's for working-class families, it's for the working poor, it's for the poor, it's for seniors who want to age in place, it's for people with disabilities, it's for the homeless, it's across the board. We don't need just one kind of housing. We need a lot of different kinds of housing. And this is a key place, this is how I see it, of thinking about the role of the federal government. The federal government's job is not to say this is the kind of housing you need, or this is the kind of zoning you need, or this is the kind of public amenities you need. It's to say we have a capacity at the federal level to do progressive taxation and ask those at the top to pay more, and then to invest that money all across America in the way that in New Hampshire or anywhere else you best think it can be done. Moody's says we will bring down rents by 10% with this housing bill. We'll also help lots of people get into ownership. We'll help people get off the streets. The idea is to move lots of people in this country. You know, the way I see this, housing lies at the intersection of everything we try to do. Without good and stable housing, people's health is at risk. Their children have a hard time in school. It's hard to hold down a job when you're not in a steady place. So I think of all the pieces as coming together. I talked today about the 2-cent wealth tax and how we invest in an entire generation's education. But I also have a plan, fully paid for, to also invest in housing, because we need to make these pieces work together. Those two, plus healthcare, that's how we really build an economy that works for everyone. So, thank you. Thank you. Love it. Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Tell me your name.
My name is Dave Williams.
Dave?
Williams.
It's nice to see you, Dave.
Thank you. I think if you win the nomination, which
I like
hope
that.
you do, yeah, there you go.
Send good thoughts my way, Dave. Okay.
I think the other side is going to characterize you as a socialist. I think you're going to be the reincarnation of Lenin, and that's what they think anyway. And how are you going to fight this characterization that they're going to smear all over the airways about you?
So, look, yeah. Now, here's how I see this. Part one is they're going to go after whoever is our nominee. I mean, can we just be clear about that? They're going to come after it, and they're not going to care what's truthful and what's not truthful. Look, I've made it clear 100 zillion times. Check the videos. I believe in markets. I believe in what markets can do. But I also want to be clear about this. Markets without rules are theft. That's just... So the billionaires don't like the fact that I think we actually need markets with rules, you know. This is why I think the banks need rules so they don't get to crash our economy, right? Why I think the oil industry and other petroleum industry need rules so they don't get to just destroy our earth, and on through the system. So I'm going to make clear what I fight for, but here's how I see this. We have two tools that I think are going to be primary as we go forward in winning this election. And yeah, I like winning this election. Part one is we're not just on defense. We're not just on Trump as a bad guy. My view is if we spend all our time talking about Trump, we're going to have a hard time winning this. We need to talk about what we stand for and what we're willing to get out there and fight for. And on these core issues, like the 2-cent wealth tax, let them talk about it. Let them call whatever name they want. You talk about that 2-cent wealth tax, and here's the thing. It's popular, not just among Democrats, not just among independents. A majority of Republicans think it's a good idea. When I talk about canceling student loan debt for 43 million Americans, that's not just 43 million Democrats, it's Democrats and Republicans and independents. We want to be the party that sees what's broken, the things that touch people's lives, show that we know how to fix it, and that we're willing to actually get out there and fight to get it done. That's how we're going to win. So that's half the answer, what we fight for and that we show we're willing to fight. But the other half, I believe, is about how we fight. You know, I had to make a decision when I decided I was going to run for president. I knew what I'd be fighting for. These are the issues I've worked on all my life. And this is a chance to get out there and fight for them. But there's also a question about how to fight. And I decided from the very beginning, I was not going to spend my time selling access to my time to billionaires and to corporate executives. I wasn't going to do it. I was going to fund this campaign from the very beginning on grassroots donations. Now, people said to me, you can't do that. This is the way you win elections, is that you scoop up a bunch of money, or you already have a bunch of money, and you buy a bunch of TV ads, and that's how you're going to win primaries, and that's how we're going to win the general election. But understand this, we have no comparative advantage in that. If this is a bunch of their TV ads versus a bunch of our TV ads, if this is what they're saying all day long on Fox News, if this is what they're doing all day long on the internet feeds, we have no comparative advantage there. We're not behind, but we're not ahead. That's not how we win. How we win is we build a grassroots movement. That's how we win. So when I decided I was going to fund this campaign with $5 and $10 that people pitch in, and said, this is how I'm going to do it, the first dollars that came in, you know what I did with them? I hired field organizers. I hired people to be out there and help bring in volunteers, right? Give them a place to be. Build a movement. And why does that matter? Why is that the answer to your question? Because here's the thing. They can lie about us all day long. They will lie about us all day long, whoever's our candidate. But the one thing that beats the lies, we know this, the one thing that beats back the misinformation, the distortions is face-to-face. It's talking to somebody. It's a live human being. It's somebody who knocks on your door. It's somebody who talks to you by phone. It's somebody who reaches out because they're your neighbor, because they were standing behind you in line at the grocery store, because they were pumping gas next to you. So we build that grassroots army right now. And that is how we beat back their lies. That's how we show them what Democrats are going to get out there and fight for. That's how we're going to do it. That's the plan. And by the way, if you think that's a good idea and you haven't already gone there, go to elizabethwarren.com and pitch in $5. So that was my commercial. Okay, Dave gave me a good chance on that. Where's my other question? Hi.
Hi.
What's your name?
I usually go by Miaka Provost.
Okay, hi Miaka.
Sharon.
Okay.
My question specifically relates to Medicare. I have a pre-existing condition, a heart condition that I was born with. And Medicare has been my hot button topic for years. My entire adulthood, I have voted primarily on how do I get good access to good health care that's not going to break the bank, because I have maxed out health care more than once with surgeries that were experimental back in the 1980s. I want to know more about family medical leave, and I think that's more at the state level than the federal level and a different issue. But I saw something that said you'd backstepped on Medicare for All, and I want a little more information.
Okay, so let's do it. Let's start with a statement of our values. Healthcare is a basic human right. We fight for basic human rights. I mentioned earlier about the work I've done pretty much my whole grown-up life, and there's another way kind of to describe it, and that is why families go broke. Why do working people go broke in America? And one of the number one reasons is the cost of health care. And back when I was doing this study, one of the really shocking findings we hit was that about 2 out of 3 of the people who filed bankruptcy following a serious medical problem had health insurance. Health insurance just isn't getting it done in America. So the fundamental question in this country is, how do we get the most help to the greatest number of people at the lowest possible cost? That's where we need to be as a country. So here is my plan. First, I'm going to do everything, I love saying this, that a president can do all by herself. And that means on day one, I'm going to go after, because we can do this through executive authority, the drug companies on some of these big drugs like insulin and EpiPens, and lower the cost on them right from the beginning. That's going to save families hundreds of millions of dollars and reduce cost in the healthcare system. Second thing I will do on my own is I'll defend the Affordable Care Act from the sabotage of the Trump administration. Protect people with pre-existing conditions, make sure that everyone under 25 is still covered on your parents' plan, and so on. And then in the first 100 days, here's my plan, because we can do this. I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but we can do this through reconciliation, which means 50 votes. I want to offer 135 million Americans full Medicare for all coverage at no cost. Everybody under the age of 18, everybody who has a family of 4 with an income less than $51,000. And for anybody else who wants to buy in, you can do so at a modest price. In addition, in this first 100 days, I want to lower the age of Medicare from where it is now down to 50. So everybody's eligible, 50 and above. And it's time to expand the coverage of Medicare. So it's also dental, vision, hearing. And long-term care. We've got to cover long-term care. So the idea here is that tens of millions, maybe we're up past 40% of the population, 50% of the population experiences it. Says, here we are, we're covered, right? At no or little cost. We've seen what expanded health care is like. And then in my third year, we make the transition to Medicare for everyone. Let's bring a whole lot of people along in that. That's my idea. Because we got to get this done. We have got to get this done for families across the country. You know, I want to talk for just a minute as we close up here, because we've got to save time for selfies. I want to talk just a little tiny bit about getting things done. I don't want to go to Washington, to the White House, just to try on the outfit, right? I want to go to make real change. That's why I'm in this fight. Real change, because this is the moment we better do this. And so I want to tell you a story about a toaster. You didn't see that coming, did you? So when I was a young mom, toasters could actually burn down houses. Those little toaster ovens didn't have shutoff switches, automatic shutoff switches. So it was entirely possible to put 4 slices of bread in, close up the little toaster oven, flick the thing on, hear the baby cry, go to the other end of the house, deal with the baby, stay a little longer than you thought, and when you come back to the kitchen, pull out the tray and the flames are leaping about 8 inches high. And with any luck, it also caught the kitchen curtains on fire and maybe the kitchen cabinets. Ask me how I know. All I'll say is my daddy, for Christmas, when I was a young mom, bought me a fire extinguisher. So here's the thing. Consumer Agency, Consumer Product Safety Commission, looked up on that and said, enough. Enough. And they just issued a rule, and they said you can't sell a toaster in America that has a 1 in 5 chance of burning down your house. Done. And that was it. They put safety switches on them, and that was the end of toaster house fires. By 2000 in America, the mortgages were so dangerous and so complex that 1 out of 5 that were being sold were going to cost a family their home. Not through fire, but through foreclosure. But this time, the federal government wasn't on the side of the families. This time, they were so deep in the pocket of the big banks, they let them just keep selling those mortgages. So much so, they crashed the entire economy. And that was what happened in 2008. Now, I had an idea. I had an idea for something we could do about that. So the idea was for a consumer agency only for financial products, like the toasters, right? You shouldn't get cheated on mortgages, credit cards, student loans, payday loans, right? You just ought to be able to understand them. So the idea was, let's create a consumer agency like the Consumer Product Safety Commission. So I went to Washington. I wasn't in politics. I went to Washington, and I talked to everybody I could find about this idea. And pretty much they all told me the same 2 things. The first, that is a great idea. You could actually make a real difference. Structural change. The second, don't even try. Don't try, because you'll be up against big money. You'll be up against big banks. You'll be up against the Republicans. Shoot, you're going to be up against half of the Democrats. You'll never get it done. I get it. Big structural change is hard. But it was also the right thing to do. So we got in the fight. We took on Wall Street. We took on the big money. And here's the thing. Barack Obama signed that agency into law. We won. Yeah. And here's an even cooler part. That little agency has forced the banks to return more than $12 billion directly to people they cheated. We know how to make government work for the people. So what did I learn from that? Part one is that even if the big banks don't like it, even if big money doesn't like it, even if the billionaires don't like it, we need big ideas to meet the problems of our time. We need big ideas to inspire people to get out and vote. We need big ideas to be the lifeblood of our party so everyone understands who and what Democrats will fight for. We need big ideas to take back the Senate and put Mitch McConnell out of a job. We need big ideas, and we need to be willing to fight for them. You know, look, I get it. It's easy to give up on a big idea. It's easy to say, oh, you know, I'm so sophisticated, so smart. That's too hard. We're not going to do that. But the problem is, this isn't about picking a fight. This is about the fights that are already out there. People who are struggling to pay their medical bills are already in a fight. People who are getting crushed by student loan debt are already in a fight. People who are getting stopped by the police because of the color of their skin are already in a fight. And these fights are all of our fights. Understand it this way. Our country is in a crisis. And Washington insiders, media pundits, shoot, people in our own party don't want to admit this. They think that running some vague campaign is somehow safe. If all Democrats can say is business as usual after Donald Trump, then Democrats will lose. We win when we show that we have solutions big enough to meet the problems in people's lives. Yeah. Look, I'm not running a campaign that has been shaped by consultants and that has some tepid proposals designed not to offend big donors. I passed that a long time ago. I'm running a campaign based on a lifetime of fighting for working families. I'm running a campaign from the heart, because I believe that 2020 is our time in history, our time to win the fight for a Green New Deal and save our planet. Yep. Time to win the fight for Medicare for all and save our people. Our time to win the fight for a 2-cent wealth tax and invest in a whole generation. 2020 is our time to dream big, fight hard, and win.